Hello, Gene Schwimmer here, and welcome to me. First order of business today, I want to welcome a new subscriber. So, welcome new subscriber. The new subscriber subscribed, I think, about a day ago. So, welcome. Glad to see you here. That's the good news. The bad news is before the new subscribers subscribed, I had 10 subscribers, and after the new subscribers subscribed, I still have 10. So, somebody left. I'm sorry to see you go. What did I do? What did I say? All I do is post these little videos. So I hope the 10 that I have, I hope you'll share these videos. Do the old thumbs up thing. That's supposed to help somehow. You can do it. You can't do it twice. Do it once. That's enough. And share the videos with your friends or even your enemies. Doesn't matter. There's no such thing as bad publicity, as the old saying goes. So, on to our subject. Today, I want to talk about the art of the deal. That, of course, is the phrase people use in reference to Donald Trump because he wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. That was his first book. Or I should say somebody wrote the book for him, a ghostwriter who has since identified himself. I don't remember who it was, but he did a good job, and this was actually a very influential book to me, because at the time that book came out, I was a musician, and I was in Germany for a few weeks with a singer trying to get a recording contract. We went into a studio, we made a demo tape. Long story short, somebody offered to manage us. I signed a really bad deal that I was stuck in for 10 years. I was so naive. People were negotiating for me. I said, I'm just an artist. I'm not a business guy. I don't know about that stuff. I just want to write songs, which is what I was doing, writing and playing songs. Give you an idea how naive I was. This was Germany. The contract was in German, and I don't speak German, just a tiny bit that I learned. I just picked up some German magazines, and I went to Barnes & Noble. I bought myself a German-English dictionary, and I just put one next to the other, and I just read these articles. I would look at the German translations of the words in the article, and I would pick up a smattering of German, and I could even tell you some fun, well, they're funny now in retrospect, but of when I was in Germany, stories of getting lost because trying to ask directions, and then funny story, save it for another time. The reason I'm mentioning that is I signed this really bad deal. I got really betrayed, and I was in the airport coming back, and there were some English books there, and one of them was the paperback version of The Art of the Deal, Donald Trump. I read the book about the art of the deal, and I said, what happened to me in Germany is never going to happen to me again. I'm not going to be the naive artist anymore. I'm going to learn how to do business, how to read contracts and understand what they mean. And you always need a lawyer, but to negotiate knowledgeably on my own behalf, or to understand the lawyers and the accountants and the people that are talking to me, okay? So I read the book, and then I decided the way to pick up this business knowledge was to go into real estate, to become a real estate broker. And because we were talking about business contracts, I decided it would be commercial real estate. So I did actually learn a lot from that book, and because of that, when I got back to the United States, I got a real estate license, a salesperson license. I went into real estate, and I did it for a while. Then I got out of the business, and now I'm back in again for about the last 10 years, commercial real estate. That's a kind of a background, and I'm now a commercial real estate broker in New York. I deal with landlords all the time, with your Donald Trumps. I never dealt with Donald Trump personally, but we can talk about the art of the deal. I'm speaking as somebody who's a little bit more knowledgeable than a lot of other people who talk about it, and I'm talking mostly about Democrats. I'm recording this just after the shutdown ended. The Democrats tried to shut down the government. That lasted for 3 days, and they lost, and they had to vote to reopen the government. And a lot of the criticism, or you hear from Democrats all the time, oh, well, Donald Trump, he's supposed to be this great deal maker, the art of the deal. He's a great deal maker. How come he couldn't make this deal with the Democrats, or with us, speaking as the Democrats? And I'm going to tell you why. If you have that attitude, you don't understand what the art of the deal is, or what making a deal means. Now, ideally, you want a win-win situation where everybody comes away happy, everybody gets what they want. But the art of the deal, the essence of the deal, put it this way, making any deal, is knowing where you stand, where your strengths are, and where your weaknesses are relative to the person or the business or the entity or whoever on the other side of the table. If you're in a stronger position than the other person is, you are under no obligation at all to give them a gift. Business is not charity, and politics is not charity. If I'm a Republican, I don't have to, and you're a Democrat, I don't have to give you something to make you happy if I have holding all the cards, and vice versa. So here are a couple examples from recent real estate deals that I was working on, and you can see the difference here, and then we can apply it to politics. But there was one location, and the problem was that my customer loved that space, really, really, really wanted that space, and the landlord didn't care a whole lot if they rented to us or to somebody else. So they were in a stronger position. That's just the way it is, and that's the position that I had to negotiate from for my customer. So for instance, there was a problem that the concept was an espresso bar, and this particular space had been a cell phone store. It had no plumbing into the space. It had no water spigot, no water pipe, no drainage. So we needed to put that in. So we said to the landlord, okay, we would take the space, but you have to put this drainage in. And they said, well, we're not going to do it. And my customer really wanted this space, and what eventually got negotiated was that instead of paying 2 months security deposit, we would pay 3 months security deposit, and they would put in the drain. Okay, so we had to do that. Number two, they wanted to be able to, what they call in New York real estate, anyways, commercial real estate, a demo clause, demolition clause. The landlord wants the option somewhere down the line to be able to tear down the building and put a new building in its place. It gets very complicated in New York, so I won't go into too much detail, but the landlord, to work out the timing, he said we wanted a 10-year lease, which is pretty standard in New York City for a commercial, a retail store lease. This landlord would only do 5 years, and that was it. He said, because after that I want to be able to demolish the building. So we had to work out something where at the end of the 5th year, within 120 days, he had to notify us in writing that he wanted to demolish the building, and then by the end of the year we had to be out. If he decided not to exercise it, then we would get another full year, and then the landlord would have 120 days before the end of that year to notify us again, and so on and so forth up into the 10th year, and then at the end of the 10th year the lease would expire. Okay, so that's the position that we were in. That's what happens when you're in a weak position. Now, today I inquired about another space, same customer. I shot an email to the landlord's broker, and I'd say within an hour or pretty soon, I got a telephone call. He called me, and I said, well, what's the asking rent? He said, well, there's an official asking rent, but the landlord is desperate. Just make an offer. Just offer anything you want. I'll push as hard as I can to get the landlord to make a deal because he's really desperate to rent the space. And this time, my customer and I, we're in the stronger position, and we're going to drive a harder bargain. We're going to make a real low ball bid. We may get it, we may not. We have nothing to lose because he's desperate. If he says no, hopefully he'll come back with a counter offer that we can work with, and if not, then we'll maybe raise our offer. We'll decide what to do, or we can just walk away and say, well, this is our bid. If anything changes, let us know. That's what happens when you're in a strong position. That's the position that Donald Trump was in and is in, because the subject was immigration. And when you're talking about, now the Democrats could have had a deal, they still could, on the DACA kids, the delayed action on childhood arrivals. But the problem is that they want other things. they could have that deal right away to legalize those children. And they're not even children. I mean, they're full-grown adults now. And this whole idea about English being the only language that they know, actually, slightly less than half of them, they don't speak English. Okay, so but Donald Trump was willing to give on that, but he wanted a lot of things in return. Obviously he wants the wall. He loves his wall, and end to chain migration, and to the end to chain migration, the end to the visa lottery where potential immigrants are just selected randomly. He wants a merit-based system, and he's willing to give on this. But the basic idea is that Trump says, I will legalize these childhood arrivals, these ones that are here now, if we pass laws and institute policies that would have prevented those arrivals from getting here in the first place, so that we can have no more in the future. He's in a very strong position on that because the public sides with him on that. In fact, I saw a poll today that, never mind illegal immigration, most Americans, and I'm talking about over half, most Americans want legal immigration restricted. They want 1 million or fewer immigrants coming into the country legally. That's without even talking about all the illegals. And they just made clear they are not willing to shut down the government to help the DACA kids, which they support doing. It doesn't mean that much to them. And the Democrats have to decide, letting these kids stay, how much does it mean to them? And right now it seems that the ability to bring even more immigrants to the country without regard to merit, whether they can speak English, whether they're educated, whether they can find work, or will just be dependent on welfare. They would rather be able to do that than allow these 800,000 children to stay. And it's obvious to everybody, and it's obvious that the public sides with Trump on that. That's number one. Number two, the reason these DACA kids were able to stay was because of the executive order that Barack Obama signed. And even he said in an earlier speech that he did not have the power to do that, but he went ahead and he did it anyway. And that's the problem. That order is unconstitutional. If it gets challenged in the Supreme Court will strike it down. That's number one. Number two, the order anyway, it expires in March. And absent a specific law enacted by Congress, which Donald Trump has to sign. So they're going to need 2/3 of both houses to override him if he decides to veto. And it looks like he's willing to veto it. So he's got this hard deadline that he can just hammer the Democrats with, and said, well, you've got until March, and I think it's March 25th. And he said, if you don't agree, then I'm going to have to start deporting these kids. I keep saying kids, these adults that came here as children. So we'll see what happens, but that's what the art of the deal is. It's great when the two sides can work together, but when they can't, he's doing exactly what the Democrats would do if the positions were reversed. He's doing exactly, in fact, what Barack Obama did in 2013 when it was Ted Cruz and some Republicans that tried to shut down the government over Obamacare, and that didn't go so well either. So I guess the real message to the Democrats from us conservatives is welcome to the club. If you just shut down the government to get a policy preference, you better have the public solidly on your side for that preference, or you're not going to get what you want, and what you're going to get instead is your head handed to you, which is what happened. And Donald Trump, as I said, he's pursuing the art of the deal perfectly because he knows he's in a strong position. Plus he's, he got a gift from Chuck Schumer, is that his last name is Schumer with an S-H, so it's the Schumer shutdown. Donald Trump, whatever you think of him, he is good at that. He's just good at just finding the way to sell an idea. I mean, that's what he's done all his life. I mean, you look at his I was in Trump Tower. I had a customer a long time ago, 20 years ago, when I was doing office leasing. It was a printer, a Japanese printer, and they wanted to open a printing plant in New York City, and we were the people. I was a salesperson at that time, working for somebody else, and there was a husband and wife were the main people, and they had an apartment in Trump Tower. So I was in Trump Tower. I wasn't in Trump's apartment, but I was in Trump Tower, and whatever they're charging for those apartments, they're not worth it to me. I mean, it just looked like your your sheetrock walls and the furniture the tenants supplied, and maybe there's some nice appliances, but it's like a famous sales guru said. I can't remember his name, but don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle. And that's what Donald Trump has been doing practically all his life, and he's been doing it very successfully. So if I were a Democrat, I would be worrying right now. If I were a Republican, I would be passing out popcorn. And with that, that's all I can say about the art of the deal. I probably went on too long, as I always do, but that's it. Going to say goodbye for now. Do the thumbs up if you can, and share the video so more people will watch it, because I love doing them. And bye.
You got plan, darling?
I always got plan. They don't ever work, but I always got one.